spoilers for chapter 230 of Jujutsu Kaisen. If you do not want to be spoiled, leave right now. What's up, guys? Elephant here, and here we are to do a breakdown / analysis to the spoilers for chapter 230 of Jujutsu Kaisen. And whew, we got a hefty a hefty amount of things to discuss. Oh, sweet mother of mercy, gay, you madman. Okay. Does anyone else hear that? Does anyone else hear, are those footsteps? Is that the sound of kenjaku in the distance? Is that the sound of kenjaku getting ready to cook? I don't know. I'm sorry, let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? I call the pencil here. And fun fact, I do have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. But forget what I have on me. Forget what I keep on me. Yo, okay. So this is so, like, this is interesting. This is interesting for multiple reasons. Do I go, no, I will take it page by page, step by step, and explain why some things are interesting, why some things are not interesting, why some things have me a little bit nettled, why some things have me not that nettled, and why I still think this is an amazing chapter, regardless of whatever annoys me or whatever I do wish we could have gotten. So, we open up and we do get to see that Mei recognizes Mahoraga and essentially describes it as the Zenin clan's trump card, their ultimate last resort kind of thing. Very interesting that Mei knows that. Like, why do you know that? Like, here's the thing. I would kind of understand it if, like, Angel knew it. If Kashimo knew it. No, Kashimo not really. I don't know. Kashimo's super duper weird. Like putting it in context, Kashimo fans. Like, your guy is just a random. For all, well, same thing with Ryu. Like, I can't even lie. Like, they're in that weird point where they're, like, not in the Heian era. They're, like, 400 years old. Like, not even, like, 500 years old. Like, not a nice, smooth, even halfway point number. No, like, they're, like, 400 years old and just happen to be weirdly strong for their time period. And then, like, nothing else. Like, notably, if you look at every other powerful sorcerer that is incarnated, they're usually from the Heian era. But, like, I don't know. I don't remember anything special about the era that Kashimo and Ryu come from. They just happen to be two freak exceptions. But so I don't think Kashimo knowing about the Zenin clan would make sense. But, like, at least Angel, because we know Angel should be from that time period, because I think it appears that they actually know who Sukuna is. Like, they describe him as the Fallen for a reason. But Mei's the one to notice that. Interesting. I wonder if she's just been told. I wonder if Gojo told her, or she bought the information, like, notably. But then again, like, in what circumstances? Like, maybe that's just like you gotta know your competition kind of thing. Like, maybe she was worried in case she ever fought a 10 Shadows user, she have to run into Mahoraga, I guess. But if it's gotten to the point, Mei, where you're beating a 10 Shadows user that bad, at least with Mahoraga, I think you've already won. But with that being the case, Choso says, this Shikigami. Yeah, this one can kind of adapt to any sort of attack. And interesting, very interesting, how does Choso know that? Like, maybe Kenny told him? Okay, that one makes more sense. Maybe Kenny told him before, like, their shaky alliance ended and before Choso realized who he was. Maybe he knows that because of that reason. Because he wasn't there. As far as I remember, he wasn't there in Shibuya when Mahoraga spawned in. I don't think he was watching the fight between Sukuna and Mahoraga. He was having his little is it really a midlife crisis if you're 150? I don't know. But regardless, he was having his little, like, mental crisis with Yuji there. So I wonder how he knows that. Presumably it's just Kenny, because he wasn't there the first time. He wasn't there at the Yorozu fight. So it has to be through Kenny. But with it being the case, when you see that, Yuji's like, wait a minute. You said adapt to anything. Does that mean it adapted to a limited void? Like, legitimately, does that mean it worked like that? Like, is Gojo's strongest technique just out of here? And we do get to see that, kind of, maybe, sort of. And we do see that as the crows fly over the battlefield, monitoring everything, you see that Sukuna is moving already. Now, this is something that I'm like, okay, first things first, I will admit, no matter how fraudulent this makes Sukuna, I'll get into how fraudulent Sukuna is eventually. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna make a video. I wanted to wait until this chapter came out before I like put Sukuna in court. Trust me, Sukuna's going in court. It's a necessity at this point. Like I may get a full suit. I may get all dressed up nice and proper to properly put Sukuna through the ringer and see if he's a fraud or not. But I will admit, fraud or not, this is one of the coldest panels in the entire series. Seeing Mahoraga like nigh on kneel down before Sukuna and being like, yeah, I'm here to support my son. And you see Sukuna like walking off Unlimited Void and healing up. It's a really, really cool shot. Like I really, really like it. One of Gege's, honestly, one of my favorite recent shots from Gege. Just because of like how much details in the background, the definition on Mahoraga, even the definition on Sukuna, like I like it. That's a really, really solid shot. But speaking of really, really solid shots, that I guess Unlimited Void. Okay. So here's the thing, right? You may be wondering, like I was initially wondering when I was first reading this, when I first woke up this morning, how? Like, notably, destroying Unlimited Void or the closing of Unlimited Void shouldn't immediately clear you of the status effect. In fact, it's quite the opposite, where even spending 0.2 seconds in a domain was enough to absolutely brain drain the disaster curses for a few minutes at least upwards of, let's be generous, it took 299 seconds for Gojo to slay all the transfigured humans on that floor. 299 seconds is about 300 seconds. Let's just say him and Kenjaku's whole conversation took place in 300 seconds before Mahito woke up. So 300 seconds divided by 60. 5 minutes. Even the cursed spirits, because Gege released a little thing talking about how, cursed spirits' brains function differently, so the effects of Unlimited Void act differently on them. So for 5 minutes, the cursed spirits were locked down. Gojo hit Sukuna with, seemingly enough, a whole second of Unlimited Void before Mahoraga came out. We don't know how long it took for Mahoraga to raise its sword and stab it into the ground, but presumably it was at least 1 second. Especially considering Sukuna gets his heart crushed and Gojo's forced back, and then Sukuna has to say, with this divine treasure I saw, like, Sukuna should realistically have been locked down for at least 10. At least 10. Even with his drastic power gap between him and the disaster curses, considering the type of ability Unlimited Void is, if it worked conventionally, then Sukuna should be locked down for like way longer than this. But we see as he walks forward, something gets explained that in reality, it wasn't Sukuna that took the sure hit effect of Gojo's Unlimited Void, and it also wasn't Mahoraga who took the sure hit effect of Unlimited Void. In reality, it was the one person that Gojo's been trying to save this entire time that took the sure hit of Unlimited Void. So yes, the reason that Sukuna was able to move around so quickly is because it was Megami, specifically Megami's soul, that took the burden of Unlimited Void. And here's where we get into some malarkey. All right, now here's the thing. First things first. I'm a real I'm about to start rapping. But no, hold on. Let me take a sip. Let me gather my thoughts for a moment. This has to be fraudulent behavior, right? Like here's the thing, right? I was one of my biggest arguments against Sukuna being a fraud, right? Because I'll admit, despite being a Gojo Glazer, as of now, If you were to ask me a year ago, I would have been a Sukuna slopper, 100%. So I still do have some Sukuna slopping tendencies. And thusly, when the Fraud Kuna stuff appeared and was running rampant, like if you were on social media after chapter 229's leaks, not even the official chapter dropping, not even the translated version of the chapter dropping, no, if you were online when the leaks dropped, then you know for a fact the Fraud Kuna stuff was like instantaneous. It was like a chemical reaction. Like the 229 leaks dropped and suddenly Fraud Kuna sorry, it's early in the morning. Fraud Kuna exploded everywhere. Like legit, it made a mess, painted the whole area white. But you know, I was trying to defend Sukuna, right? Because I was like, well, to be fair, he did steal the technique. So it would make less sense for him to not use the technique. But like, this is going a step beyond using a technique, bro. Like, you're telling me the whole and I mean, here's the thing, right? One, Sukuna fully admits that he's not like that. Like, Gojo managed to eat Malevolent Shrine. The strong, like, for all intents and purposes, the strongest domain in the series, right? Like, I think we can all agree that that's kind of just what Malevolent Shrine is. Like, in terms of just simple, as a domain, it was described by the narrator as divine. It's cast by Sukuna, who should have more cursed energy and more raw power than Kenjaku. It's an open barrier domain which transcends even limited void. Like, all of that makes it the strongest domain in the series. Gojo was able to eat that multiple times. Sukuna couldn't even take the sure hit. Sukuna literally redirect. And here's the thing, right? I kind of don't like. Hold on, I may need to go and double check. I'll do this for the actual review, but right now I'm just speaking off the domer. This smells like malarkey. Once again, I'll wait till the official chapter comes out. Maybe it's something different, but unless I'm mistaken, Unlimited Void attacks the brain by overstuffing it with information. Right now, the person in control of the body, to the point where Megami was actively suppressed twice, is Sukuna. How do you redirect an attack that's supposed to overstuff your brain to a soul that's submerged inside your body? Like, how do you even do that? Like, I don't know. Something about that doesn't sound right. Like, something about that does not seem. And like, I mean, I guess. Like, here's the thing. This goes all the way back, way back, ironically enough, to when Gojo was sealed. When Kenjaku is describing the sensation, when Gojo actually managed to awaken Geto for a half second, he's like, oh, shoot, okay, all right, I see what you're doing there. And then when Mahito's like, that shouldn't be happening, bro, you good? And he's like, yo, Mahito, I'll be real with you, man. You say the body and the soul are two separate but linked counterparts, but realistically, the soul is the body and the body is the soul. I mean, maybe that's what happened here, but the thing is, Sukuna's soul is infused with the body. So, like, I don't get how he managed to, like redirect the brain attacking thing, not to the soul, not to the body that he has, but to the soul that was within the, like, does Megami's, like, is that, here's the thing, right? Because you see at least in the spoilers, Megami's eyes are like I can't dilate my pupils and irises big enough. Like, he is just brain dead. But how can that work? He's a soul right now. He doesn't have control over any of his physical or mental faculties at this point. So how is he able to be affected by Unlimited Void? How do you redirect? And like, notably, you see, like, it's weird because the wheel is also there. Like, the wheel is like floating above Megami's body. So like, is Megami's soul stored in the shadows? Is this a physical incarnation of Megami's soul? And if so, like, what is the wheel doing? Especially considering, what is the wheel doing there when Mahoraga's out? Like, is this supposed to be, is this not, like, actually a thing? Like, is this just, like, visual representation of what's kind of happening? Regardless, I still think it's kind of nonsense. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna double check. I know, let me make sure. I'm not even gonna do it pre-review. I got the Googler out. Unlimited Void. Does it attack the soul? Unlimited Void. Unlimited Void. Morio Kurusu. Alright, let me take a look. The main expansion brings the user and their targets inside the limitless itself. A vast void of infinite knowledge. Boundless raw information floods into the target's mind, overwhelming them to the point where they're completely immobile. Overwhelming the target's mind. So, I mean, I guess. Because, like, I guess you could say the mind is more tied to the soul. But I still don't get how, like, how was Sukuna able to redirect it? Especially considering, like, you see at the end of last chapter, Sukuna starts to take the hit. And then he chants for Mahoraga to come out. But, like, how? Like, I this is legit just be wondering, like, how did he do it, though? Because that seems so oddly specific. Like, for something that's supposed to attack the mind, seemingly overwhelm the brain with information, him being able to redirect it so it doesn't actually attack his brain or his soul or anything like that. And here's the thing. If he can just redirect it to Megami, why did he need to bring out Mahoraga? Like, this feels, I don't know, this feels a little nonsensical. Once again, maybe the official chapter of the translations or something will come out and it'll make more sense to me. But I don't get how Unlimited Void, something that specifically targets the body and the mind, something that should be all Sukuna right now, is able to be redirected to Megami's soul, which is super duper buried in the abyss. I don't know. And here's the thing. If you want to argue it's because the body is the soul, soul is the body argument that Kenjaku made, then Sukuna still should have been affected by Unlimited Void, because his soul is merged with Megami's right now. Even if it's overwhelming it, like all the Culling Game players overwhelm their respective soul participant, then Megami's body and his soul are still one and the same, and thusly the body should still be paralyzed since Megami is still paralyzed. So I don't know. I smell malarkey. This is one of the cases where, and I'm calling it here, and y'all can get mad at me for this. This is one of the cases where I just think Gege didn't know what to do. Like, here's the thing. I genuinely would have preferred, instead of this explanation, I genuinely would have preferred Mahoraga shatters Unlimited Void, and then it's said to us, instead of the sure hit being redirected to a soul, even though Unlimited Void should attack the body, and even though the soul, if it's tied into the body, like it is implied to be here, then Sukuna should still be affected. Regardless of any of that, just say that Sukuna, like Gojo, is revealed to have been running RCT on his brain the entire time. And thusly, as Mahoraga was stabbing and the effect was cut off, Sukuna's brain was already refreshing. And then by the time Gojo goes to try and one-shot Mahoraga, it's already too late, because Sukuna's been RCTing at the top level, being the king of curses, and boom, his brain is already back online. I would have preferred that explanation of this, because this explanation, I don't know. Explain it to me in the comments. Like, explain to me in the comments. Right now, it smells like malarkey. Like just straight malarkey. I'm not gonna lie to you. It smells like Gege made something up. Like, to the point where I feel like this falls out of the bounds of common sense won't prevail in the battle of the strongest. Now, I can kind of explain everything else. I cannot find an explanation for this. This seems like nonsense. However, with that being the case, we do get to see that Sukuna heard y'all. Sukuna saw the Mickey Mouse Fraud House edits. He saw everything. And thusly, he immediately sends Mahoraga back to the Shadow Realm. Like, legitimately, Mahoraga kneels and goes back into the shade. And we see that Gojo is like, would you look at that? You ain't gonna jump me. But still, you had to rely on somebody else's technique. How desperate. And, like, I suppose, once again, yes. And that is very intriguing. Because here's the thing, right? Another big reason that I was going to say Sukuna wasn't a fraud is because Sukuna's not actually, like, a prideful creature. I mean, he is. Like, he looks down on other people, but that's just because of his position in the heavens. Like, he literally just looks down because where else is there to look? But one of my biggest things about Sukuna is that, at least if from my understanding of his character, is that he, according to himself, according to Uro, and according to pretty much everyone else who talks about Sukuna, Sukuna is more calamity than man. Like, he isn't really a person anymore. He sort of transcended that. Those ideals, those thoughts. It was not he himself who called himself the strongest. It was not he himself who deemed himself the king of curses. No, the world deemed him that simply because he was that powerful. And thusly, I figured Sukuna wouldn't care about pride, wouldn't care about ideals. He specifically told Jogo, like, dude, if you had just burned it all away, kept living your life as you pleased, that would have been the way to true strength, the true acknowledgement, to true humanity. But in the end, you kind of just ended up sitting around and chilling. Like that's the thing that gets me here. Like, it feels like Sukuna would have jumped with Mahoraga, but apparently he doesn't. He puts Mahoraga away. But to be fair, based on what happens later in the chapter, maybe this was just an act of arrogance. Maybe this was genuinely just an act of arrogance, because things happen later on in the chapter. However, we do get to see as Sukuna is now back to full fighting form. He's healed off pretty much all damage. Even the marks he had in previous chapters fully disappear, so he used RCT to fully take care of all that. I am genuinely wondering where Sukuna's cursed energy levels are at right now, because, let's see, 3 domains. 3 high-level activations of RCT to restore himself after all those domains, plus summoning Mahoraga, plus the cleaves and dismantles at the beginning. I feel like he may be hovering around like 66%, probably. I feel like he's burned through a third. Mainly because he doesn't seem stressed. Like, he doesn't seem stressed or tired or fatigued that much at all. So I'm assuming he's around 66% reserves, which is still, if we're going by Yuta's statement, still more than Yuta, which should be more than enough considering his efficiency. As long as he can open... Once again, the biggest issue with Sukuna winning this battle, in terms of, like, anyone else stepping in other than Father Kenjaku, the big major issue here is that no one has a win con against Malevolent Shrine. No one. No. Unless Yuta has Angel's Technique, or Hana actually manages to step up and do something here and neutralizes it, there is legitimately nothing that anyone in our current cast could do against an unsuppressed Malevolent Shrine. A majority of the cast would get one shot. Hakari, even when immortal, which he isn't right now, would get absolutely one shot. And if he tries to go immortal within Malevolent Shrine, his barrier gets destroyed from the outside. Yuta, extremely bulky. Not that bulky. He would get torn apart by a bunch of cleaves. He would run out of RCT, and ironically enough, it's very likely the ring would be destroyed because it's an inanimate object. And if it is not an inanimate object, say it's infused with cursed energy through the bond with Rika, then it gets destroyed by cleaves, and then he can't even go full power, and then he just runs out of cursed energy. Maki, unfortunately, I don't think she's powerful enough to eat dismantles from a 20-finger Sukuna, because that's what's going to happen to her. She'd be considered a building and torn apart. Heck, even Soul Liberation Blade would likely get torn apart by cleaves. Yuji, as powerful as he is right now, at best, relative speed and strength to 15-finger Sukuna, at best. And this is 20-finger. I don't think he's surviving undampened cleaves and dismantles, or realistically just cleaves, because he does have cursed energy. Mei, a joke. Kusakabe, a joke. Miwa, the strongest in the verse. Panda, an insult, not even a joke. And Momo, like, none of the characters here that we have left over are really going to be able to do anything to Sukuna. So, even, once again, I don't know. I legit don't know, like, what, because a lot of people, I know a lot of people have been saying Sukuna has to win for narrative reasons. I don't know how. How do they, the thing is, and I don't know, no one's been able to give me a straight answer on this yet, but Sukuna fans, Sukuna wins. What happens next other than everyone dying? Unless you assume that Sukuna gets Black Zetsu'd by Kenjaku, or even Urume. If Urume turns out to be the Swiss secret final villain of JJK, I'd actually kind of lose my mind. But I'm assuming it's Kenjaku, right? Then, like, I guess Sukuna's win would be valid, but, like, Pro would get Black Zetsu'd immediately. Like, that's the only way I see it happening. I don't see our actual cast doing anything to 20-finger Maguna. I think he's just completely out of their league. However, with that being the case, we do get to see that Sukuna explains he wanted to get rid of Unlimited Void. When Sukuna wasn't using domain amplification, he made Megami adapt to Gojo's Void using the 10 Shadows technique. And due to that, Sukuna wasn't able to use curse techniques other than what was applied to the domain. So, essentially, what ended up happening here is that the wheel, I still don't entirely get this, because we know the wheel is a physical object. It is a treasure that needs to be given up every single time Mahoraga is to be summoned to float above its head. Apparently, Megami was used as a vessel to adapt to everything for Mahoraga. I guess. Because the thing is, right? Sukuna is the one tanking all the damage, but I guess Megami's soul is the one adapting and the wheel's floating above his head. Even though for all, like, I still don't get it, because that image we see of Megami earlier on in the chapter, does that count as him face tanking Unlimited Void? Like, what? Who has to tank? Who has to tank? Is it Megami? Is his soul the one that has to face tank all these attacks? And if so, how? How did he face tank purple? No, he didn't, right? It would have to be Sukuna, right? He didn't face tank red. That had to be Sukuna, right? He didn't face tank blue. That had to be Sukuna, right? Like, all of that would have to be Sukuna, I'd assume. But no, it's Megami's soul that, according to Sukuna, was adapting to things like Unlimited Void. And due to that, essentially, Sukuna was forced to only use techniques that pertain to Shrine. So one of the biggest things that I was talking about in this fight, and why I think it could be spiced up a little bit, I was wondering why Sukuna wasn't pulling out the box techniques, like the flame arrows or any other hypothetical techniques he has. And he's realistically only been sticking to Cleave and Dismantle, even though Cleave and Dismantle has been proven to not work all too well against Gojo. And we see the reason for that is because he was only able to use techniques that were applied to his domain while he was simultaneously using the 10 Shadows technique to adapt to Unlimited Void. So once again, this is full 100% admission that Sukuna, I'm guessing this is legit full 100% admission that Sukuna could not beat Gojo without the 10 Shadows. I think this is just 100% confirmation, which is, which once again does make sense. Don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. I know Sukuna fans aren't going to like to hear this, but Sukuna himself is admitting that he needed to use Megami and Mahoraga to deal with Unlimited Void. He himself could not come up with a better answer than that, which is a testament to Unlimited Void and its potency, and also a testament to the fact that Sukuna, at least in my opinion, once again, correct me if I'm wrong, but this implies, to me at least, that Heian era Sukuna, in the battle specifically between the strongest sorcerer of the Heian era and the strongest sorcerer of the modern day, the strongest sorcerer of the modern day is stronger. Because this is not Sukuna of the Heian era. This is Sukuna of the modern day. So, even if, and I know people are going to be like, oh, cope harder. And yes, I will proceed to cope harder. I will in fact proceed to cope so hard that it'll turn around and be Omega Copium. But with that, this does at least confirm to me that Gojo's the strongest. Like if that is really what it takes, if it really takes stealing another man's technique, and not only just stealing his technique, but using his soul as a scapegoat to survive the effects of one attack, that sounds like to me you just couldn't beat him otherwise. Which is, here's the thing, right? This is the Sukuna slopper in me. I'm kind of disappointed in Sukuna. Like on multiple. Hold on, let me take a sip, because I gotta prepare myself for this diatribe real quick. Scrumptious, but as a former, well, here's the thing, I still do like Sukuna, don't get me wrong. Do I think he's an inherently less interesting character than Kenjaku? Yes. Is he my favorite JJK villain? No. Is his technique even like one of my favorites in JJK? It's I'd say the mystery of his technique is what keeps it in top 5. I wouldn't say it's my favorite technique. I wouldn't even say it's top 3. But with that being the case, This feels underwhelming for the King of Curses, right? Like the fact that he does go out of his way. He needs the 10 chat. Like, give me one thing. Who knows? Once again, maybe this will change once I get the actual translations. But this is essentially Sukuna admitting that he's not that guy. And that just don't feel right to me. Like, once again, considering this guy was and is feared as an imaginary war deity, something that struck fear into the heart of people who would throw blows with special grades, like Ryuichi Gori and Urotakao. To see him reduced to a 10 Shadows merchant doesn't feel right. Like, you're telling me, after who knows how many years of living in the Heian era, going through a time as a regular human being and then transcending into the King of Curses, you couldn't find a single other technique, a single other ability that could have actually beat the Limitless? You really had to, like, here's the thing, right? Back way back when, in chapter like 2 or 3, when Sukuna makes the promise to Gojo that once he takes over Itadori's body, Gojo would be the first person he slays, which he isn't. He just isn't. Like, what was the plan? Was it really, would it, like, at that point, you would have to assume he had something, but I guess he just doesn't. I guess that was just a straight up lie. That is fraudulent behavior right there, because he literally couldn't. Unless I'm supposed to take this in a different way, unless I'm supposed to take this in a very different way, unless maybe he could always do the soul redirection thing, even if the soul was not Megumi's. I don't know. It feels crazy. Like, this is the King of Curses. This is the strongest sorcerer of the Heian era. A guy who can't beat a 28-year-old without stealing a 15-year-old's technique. Like, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me, especially considering how much hype Sukuna has gotten. I have to say this, and I think this is mainly because he's been presented with an equal, if not a superior. 20-finger Sukuna has been the most underwhelming Sukuna. By a long shot. I think, well, I guess you could say 1-finger Sukuna at the start of the series was underwhelming. But considering that was our introduction to him, and he still gets cool moments there, I gotta put respect on 1-finger Sukuna's name. 3-finger Sukuna against the Finger Bearer was fantastic. Or was that 2-finger? I think it was 2-finger. And then 3-finger comes later. 3-finger Sukuna is cool. 15-finger Sukuna, Shibuya Sukuna is probably peak Sukuna in my opinion. Like, I don't think he's hit a high that good since, I mean, I do admit, I think the twist in of itself, him taking over Megumi's body, is a high greater than Shibuya in terms of like, whoa, that's cool, my ankles are shattered. But like, I don't know, 20-finger Sukuna just feels embarrassing. No reversion to your original form. No use of your many, at least hinted at, many different abilities, your different curse techniques. All you have to do is rely on the ability of a boy. Because you aren't man enough to defeat Gojo. Like, I get it. Well, this is the argument, because I admit, I am friends with Sukuna fans. Like, they watch my videos, and I know for a fact if they weren't afraid to comment in the comment section, they would. But they've been saying this to me too, because I've been talking about it. Like, I've been having this has been a long 2 weeks to discuss the fraud Kuda stuff, and we were legit talking about it, and they were like, dude, call him a fraud all you want, call him a fake king, call him disappointed, call him whatever. It's not gonna matter once Gojo's dead. And I'm like, yes, you are correct. But I don't know, at least in my mind, in the same way that I view, say Gojo loses right now, and then Kashimo drops in and one-shot Sukuna with his secret curse technique. The win is tainted. Like, Kashimo beating a fatigued 20-finger Sukuna is not going to be as impressive. It's not going to, I will not like that for his character. Same thing with Sukuna beating Gojo with 10 shadows. Like, it doesn't hit right. It doesn't hit, like, at least it's true. Maguna would then be the strongest. But it just doesn't feel right, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. It's just, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just because I had such high hopes for Sukuna, especially 20-fingered Sukuna. Seeing him reduced to a 10 shadows merchant, relying on the soul of a 15-year-old boy. I don't know. Something about that just doesn't feel right. However, we do get to see that Gojo's like, okay, cool story, bro. Unlimited void. But certain things happened. Because Gojo says Megami's soul hasn't adapted to Unlimited Void, because his soul was only used in the process to adapt. That means if Gojo uses Domain Expansion again, Sukuna has no choice but to summon Mahoraga, but Gojo would make sure to demolish the Shikigami in one shot for sure. So, once again, I guess this is transitive property stuff, where since Megami is technically still under the effects of Unlimited Void as a soul thing, he technically hasn't properly adapted yet, so Gojo's just thinking if he acts quick enough, Sukuna would be proper. But see, the thing, I still don't get it. How was, because it looked like Sukuna was affected by Unlimited Void at the end of last chapter. Like, his eyes goes blank. Like, he does that and everything. Sure, he's manages to summon Mahoraga there, but like, how? But with that being the case, like, Gojo, the wheel has clicked, bro. The wheel has clicked. I think he has adapted. Like, what are you going to one shot? Is it really just going to be with a red? Are you going to just put all your faith in a maximum red? I don't know, bro. Pull out something new. However, with that being the case, we do get to see, as Sukuna points out, a certain something as Gojo just begins to pour, not gallons, but like lots of it, like streams, some rivers of the life begin to pour straight out of Gojo's nose. And we see Sukuna just laughs in his face and says Gojo won't be able to expand his domain again. And we see Gojo gets that nose dripping. And Yuta finds out that, oh no, he may actually have to step in, because the bad feeling he's had about Gojo spamming is true. And it is something that I called it. Even if I gave up a little bit of faith in it at the start of 229, and 228, I did mention, I think Gojo's brain is just overworked. Even with him using RCT consistently on, even with him doing all that. This is the first time in a literal decade that he's actually had to do something this crazy. So the casual levels of RCT he's been using, the casual keep the brain on refresh so he can consistently run Limitless without any problem, that's not the kind of stuff he's doing. He's having to refresh it at high levels. He's having to do things that he's literally never done before. Once again, using RCT as a coolant on his cursed technique engine over and over and over and over again, dropping 5 domains, throwing out hollow purple, throwing out reds, blues, all the like. He's been stressing himself a lot. And thusly, it only makes sense that his brain would start to get taxed by the constant abuse. And that's what the nosebleed represented. Sure, he wiped it away and kept it pushing last time, but it's not like he can consistently ignore it. I'm assuming, once again, for this to be a non-factor, he would have to tag out. He would have to tag out at least for a little bit to give his brain time to calm down, cover his eyes for a bit. He's been processing a whole bunch of information with the 6 eyes and been abusing their abilities and abusing his own abilities. He needs time for his body to genuinely cool down. Like, what's an equivalent example of this? So I'm trying to think, because you really don't do this with any sort of machinery. But essentially, well, actually, you know, theirs is a very similar example. At least, I'm not sure, but at least when I was taught when I was younger, if you're going to clean a pan, you want to clean it properly while it's hot. But of course, the pan is hot. So trying to touch the pan seems like a bad idea. So when I was younger, what I would do is I would pour cold water on it so I would cool it down. But I would let it sit for a little bit so it can like properly cool down. What my family always told me, especially my elders, they were like, dude, you got to wash it immediately, or else the stains and the rust will start to form very, very quickly. And thusly, now whenever I need to wash a pan, I just immediately wash it. Like I risk the burn status. Essentially, by Gojo forcing that cooling process on it, pouring that cold water on it, it's still causing the rusting process, no matter how quickly he's trying to clean it afterwards. You can't try and clean it when it's forcefully cooled down. You need time for the pan to simmer out, to cool down on its own after you've already washed it. But unfortunately, Gojo just doesn't have that time. And Sukuna points out that, once again, Gojo's just overexerted himself by recovering his burnt curse technique through RCT. Because essentially, what happens whenever... This is very interesting how Sukuna describes it. But essentially, what Gojo's been doing, and what he has by proxy been doing, is every single time that one uses domain expansion and their technique gets burnt out, since the curse technique is still engraved into the body, as I believe it's described in the Toji fight, the limitless that's engraved into who Gojo is, that part of the brain that is responsible for the limitless, or one's curse technique once they use domain, that part of the brain gets annihilated. But presumably not absolute annihilation, because people can have their curse techniques restored. But the natural healing process needs to take place naturally. That natural cooling process needs to take place naturally. What Gojo's been doing is effectively destroying it and instantly turning it back on, and then destroying it again and then instantly turning it back on. He's been essentially crushing that piece of his brain and trying to fix it forcefully over and over and over again, which, while possible, Gojo has been able to do it, even Sukuna's been able to do it. It's not efficient. Or no, it's actually too efficient to the point where it's going to do damage. Like, it's probably, what I'm assuming is happening that's causing like the nosebleed effect, is the fact that, if I had to say it, that part of his brain is likely like straight overheating. Like, if you were to look inside Gojo's head, if you were to get him an MRI, you would literally see like a spiked heat signature there, and it's causing the rest of his brain to overheat. And that's causing, like, to be fair, I can't remember the last time I got a nosebleed. So I'm not sure how that works entirely. But I'm assuming all that pressure you get causes buildup, and that's what leads your nose to bleed. So all that heat and pressure buildup in Gojo's head is finally coming to the forefront in the nosebleed. But considering he's been doing that so often, trying to restore and restore and restore, the natural RCT process to heal isn't going to work out as well. And we see, with that being the case, everyone realizes that, oh no. So Gojo's out of luck in terms of using Unlimited Void, because he's done it 5 times. Like, he's been destroying his brain 5 times over, and Gojo literally drops to his knees because now it's all catching up to him. Like, doing that, spamming that infinitely, while it should be possible for a user of the Limitless and the Six Eyes, unfortunately, at the end of the day, Gojo's still human. And thusly, his limitless abilities are not actually limitless. He still is a man. And we see that Sukuna, since he did it less and has literally just more cursed energy, like, once again, just going linearly, if Yuta has more cursed energy than current Gojo, and Sukuna has more than twice the cursed energy amount of that, and he's only had to do the instant curse technique healing process about 3 times in this fight, yeah, he'll be in a much better shape in comparison to Gojo. And Sukuna just naturally asks, dude, you're reaching your limit, aren't you? Because it makes sense. Once again, I pointed this out when it was first established that Gojo was... He has not fought like this. Ever. Like, realistically, ever. The moment he awakened against Toji, that was a low def. If not a no def. Like, Toji does not land a single hit on that man. So, like... Ever since Gojo awakened, he's gone unchallenged. It's just how it is. He has never been forced to do something like this before. And thusly, he's never been stressed like this. Maybe if he was in more high-intensity battles, he could do this like 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, 10 times, but his body's not used to it. So naturally, the fatigue is catching up to him. And we see Sukuna, not one to waste time, he says, you know what? Just for you, my friend. Just for you. This is a deal only for you, my friend. I'm going to close my domain with a barrier so you can't run away. And now, all I need to do is tear you to pieces. And we see he summons Mahoraga's wheel above his head. This time, he's ready and willing to tank Unlimited Void, so he can properly adapt. Then again, that should only adapt Mahoraga. I still don't get how this is going to adapt him to Unlimited Void. But with that being the case, we see that Gojo still dripping. Bro's gripping the za everywhere. It's everywhere. And we see as he drops to his knees, Sukuna says, "Goodbye, Mr. Strongest. A guy that was born when I didn't exist. An ordinary guy." And as Sukuna's talking all this smack, what immediately happens as he goes to open his domain, Malevolent Shrine instantaneously collapses on the spot. The same instant the shrine is summoned, it gets destroyed. And we see everyone's in shock. Like, huh? What's going on here? Everyone's dripping. Even Kashimo's like, And we see that Sukuna is actually even worse for wear than Gojo. Like, you literally see where Gojo had a nosebleed, Sukuna has a nosebleed. It looks like maybe even his chest wound has reopened, and his eyes, all four of them, mind you, start to pour the life juice right on out. And we see that while he did manage to somewhat redirect Unlimited Void to Megami's soul, I suppose the body and the soul unity still did take place. So he was under the effects of Unlimited Void for only 10 seconds. His brain is still overloaded with information. I'm assuming, once again, this ties into the whole body being the soul thing and Megami's soul being the one to take Unlimited Void. All that ties back in. And plus, even though Sukuna did the curse technique regeneration thing less than Gojo did, that doesn't mean he also hasn't been destroying and refreshing and destroying and refreshing, destroying and refreshing his own brain. And once again, considering he does not have the 6 eyes, he does not have unlimited cursed energy, or even pseudo-unlimited cursed energy, what's been happening is he's been burning a bunch of cursed energy. He's been destroying his brain at even higher risks than Gojo. And thusly, that in combination with the lingering effects of Unlimited Void, he's actually taken real proper damage, to the point where attempting to do something as complex as opening a domain and likely trying to change its properties on the fly too to make it a closed barrier, it was enough. It broke Sukuna's head, and now he needs to focus on healing that. And we know brain damage is actually super duper hard to heal. Like, even within the bounds of RCT, it's not like restoring a broken limb. You just need to tell your body to just snap it back into place. What essentially I'm assuming Sukuna has to do right now is he needs to figure out where in his brain the excess information is and use RCT to try and figure that out, while simultaneously, once again, since his domain immediately collapsed, he now needs to figure out, oh no, how do I do it so my technique starts to get restored? Because presumably, let me see. The 10 shadows is still above his head. So I'm guessing Megami's soul is the one using the 10 shadows, not Sukuna, even though Sukuna is controlling Megami's body. Thusly, even though his ability collapsed, since it's a separate technique, and we know the Shikigami are able to be maintained beyond domain. Thank you for y'all pointing that out to me, that Shikigami can be maintained beyond domain. The Mahoraga wheel is still above it. But with that being the case, Gojo and Sukuna have now run out of domain, at least for now. And we see that Gojo's like, hey, yo, bro. It be like that when it be like that. Especially, hear me out, when it be like that, dog. My students are still watching, dog. No lie, bro. I gotta look a little bit cool real quick. How you feel, though? And we see that Sukuna is a little bit nettled as he tries to heal away the damage, but he's not able to restore everything. And I do love the different reactions of all the characters. Itadori's grinning, Hikari's cheesing, but looking a little worried. Inumaki's like, this idiot. We see Kirara concerned, mostly. Panda's, I don't like Panda, but we see Panda's there. Maki's actually genuinely cheesing, which you know, make that helps, that heals my heart. And we see even Yuta, still with a sweat drop, is smiling. And we see that since Gojo didn't actually get to open his domain in time, unlike Sukuna, his curse technique is actually still active. So he drags Sukuna in with a blue and slams him straight across the face. And we see that apparently the narrator calls back to Yorozu's line to Sukuna. I have more to teach you about love, ultimate strength, and the solitude that it brings. And we see Gojo and Sukuna are now resorting back to fisticuffs. And there's no break next week. So, let me do this first. Yes, the chapter's worthy. Shock horror. Gotta keep looking, fellas. I wonder how. I wonder for what way or what reason the chapter could be worthy. But I'll admit, the main thing that has me a little bit disappointed is the fact that Sukuna is just using other techniques, and the fact that he's still two-armed, and the fact that I feel like the soul stuff is malarkey. But the soul stuff was proven to be somewhat malarkey in this very same chapter, so while I am mad at it, it feels like it just eats up page time. I can't knock it entirely. I'll admit, I'm a little bit disappointed we didn't actually get to see Gojo versus Mahoraga. I kind of did really want to see that. So the fact that Sukuna immediately despawns it, kind of disappointed. I don't know. I really, really like Mahoraga. I would have loved to see Gojo actually fight Mahoraga for a little bit. But that doesn't happen either. But the de-evolution of the battle to just pure hands, because both have destroyed their brains to the point where their curse techniques are kind of invalid at this point, I do like that detail. And ultimately, I think you know what's happening next. Maybe not next chapter, but definitely maybe at the end of chapter 232, Kenjaku's coming. And he's coming everywhere. He's going to paint the whole room white. Because look at the position the strongest are in right now. They're both unable to use their domains, the pinnacles of Jujutsu. They're both relying on the bare minimums of their power. And now that they're so focused on each other, wouldn't this be a perfect time for Kenjaku to come in and get to whipping it up in the kitchen? Because right now, if Kenjaku opens his domain on both of them, they pretty much lose. I mean, maybe Gojo can use Simple Domain, and maybe Sukuna can probably quickly copy Simple Domain, but we know Simple Domains can get torn apart by barrierless domains. We've seen it happen to other special grade sorcerers before. So I think this is now Kenny's time. I think this is now Kenny's time for him to drop in and take his chance to really mess it up, and or murder. He could just, well, then again, no. He needs the Culling Games to end. And unfortunately, our cast is still alive. So, well, unfortunately for Kenny. So, I do think Kenny's going to come in and start cooking. But, that's the big thing. I do wonder about Mahoraga's wheel, though. I wonder how that's going to factor in. I think we may actually end up getting Gojo versus Mahoraga later, because the wheel is still here. So, even if Gojo manages to beat down Sukuna, I think Sukuna's just going to throw it back into the shadow, bring Mahoraga back up, and try to fix his brain. That's what I can see happening. But overall, a W chapter. I have my issues with it. I do have my desires and wants and dreams, but pushing that aside, a very, very, very W chapter. However, that's what I think. This is what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a very big thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Red Bull 4765. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Alex Ice Rose, Art Goon, DemXLND, Midnight Gemlord, Red Bull 4765, and Sean. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $10 patrons, iDemokami, Joaquin, and Robbie Uchiha. I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose.